Well, we've moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. So many changes geographically, but one thing never changes: the way the coin comes down. Even before we start the show, we can update you. Yet again, India have not won a toss. Yet again, it's Temba Bavuma, and yet again, India will bat first and set a total. On that note, we can welcome you to match number 4 in this 5-match T20I series, India versus South Africa. This one from Rajkot in Saurashtra. And we've got our team right here on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by Zaheer Khan and Joy Bhattacharjya. Zaheer, very technical question for you. What does Rishabh Pant have to do to win a toss? Can you practice these things?
Well, what matters, GB, is winning the match, and which the Indian team did. So I think that's something which they'll have to focus on. The toss, like I was always talking about, and every time we talk about toss, my opinion doesn't really change much. So you have to see the conditions. You have to play good cricket to win games of cricket. If you win toss, yes, it's a little bit added advantage, but that's just one part. If you focus all your energies on that, and if it's going to have a big impact on your approach towards the game, if you've lost the toss, then we are talking about some serious concerns, and which I'm sure is not the case. Which you've seen it in the previous game as well. So what's important right now is to for all the viewers to see 2-2 as a scoreline is something which everyone is very eager to see. A lot of pressure for sure, but it's a good challenge for this Indian team. They lived up to the expectations in the previous one. Let's see, as we talk about the momentum, whether they carry the momentum forward to the West Coast and in Rajkot secure another one to make the final one really, really watchable.
Absolutely. Joy, you were the one who was very vocal about saying that the toss really shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. But one thing's for sure, India, every time they've been in Rajkot in the past, they've chased twice successfully, once unsuccessfully, but they've chased every time. So something new for India to do in Saurashtra.
Yeah, this is a good ground to chase. In fact, to be honest with you, normally you see a lot of books behind me, but what's happened is I went through all of them to check how is it that Rishabh Pant can win the toss. None of them had any use. I just threw the lot away, and I've decided I'm just going to do something else. Probably go to the temple today, or go to the mosque, or pray somewhere, because there seems to be no other way to do this. Look, this is a good ground to chase because it's nice, hard, solid, even bounce. Recognize this is places where people, as I said, had nightmares of Cheteshwar Pujara batting day after day, night after night. So you can't say that, look, it's whatever happens with the toss happens with the toss. It is a little bit of an advantage, but we have the firepower, and I think at this point in time, this Indian team wants to come back. They don't want this rubber to be dead when they go for the 5th match, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I don't think any fans would either. But one thing we can tell you is Temba Bavuma said very clearly, of course, it's a no-brainer in terms of keeping to your strengths and wanting to chase, but also not very certain what the wicket is going to do. So another reason perhaps to let the opposition have first use, and then once you know what's happened in 20 overs, you can have a better idea. But Zaheer, first up with South Africa, there's been 3 changes. We were expecting Quinton de Kock to come back in. He has come back in, but along with that, a couple of more changes in the bowling department. Tall Marco Jansen, you'd know him well. He comes back in, and Lungisani Ngidi is in. So Wayne Parnell is the one who's made way, and up at the top, as expected, Riza Hendricks. The other change, Lungi Ngidi comes in for an injured Kagiso Rabada.
Absolutely, and we were not expecting any changes. Obviously, the changes are forced changes. But when you have a forced change and you see the replacement names and you see these kind of names which you are reading, Quinton de Kock, Jansen and Ngidi, that also shows the bench strength of this South African team as well. These are all good players. Everyone knows them through franchise cricket. They keep playing through international cricket. Jansen is this young upcoming talent who's got a really bright future ahead of him. Very tall, lanky guy, extracts that extra bounce. So from the World Cup point of view for South Africa, he's definitely going to play a role. And through these force changes, all these names are going to get opportunities. Not counting Quinton de Kock in that, he's a regular feature. But Ngidi as well, has been up and down lately. If you look at his last, say, 3 years, has had some issues with the injury as well, has not been playing regularly, and since the time he's come back, has his form also has not been consistent. So here's another opportunity for him to solidify his spot in this playing 11. But when you look at these names, the bench strength of South African team, and talking about the World Cup, is looking really, really good.
Yeah, but one name, at least in the context of this series, Joy, who they are likely to miss is Wayne Parnell. Normally, you'd say that about a Kagiso Rabada being injured. He's a class bowler, but Parnell's made such an impact in this series that him not being in that 11, look at what he's done in the series so far.
No, to be honest with you, I thought he was their most consistent bowler by far. He came at the right times. His county stint was good. He understood the conditions. I mean, look at that. 6, 5.8. The maximum he's gone for is 8 when guys around him have gone for a lot more. I'm really surprised not to see Parnell out here. They could have tried one change. The fact that they went for a second change to give Jansen, because clearly it's a Parnell for Jansen because that a little bit of extra batting is there. Perhaps they'd be thinking that these conditions, because the conditions are pretty flat, Parnell the batsman can just hit through the line. Perhaps they feel that, Jansen's extra bounce and the kind of height that he brings the ball down from, it'll be a bit more difficult to attack Jansen maybe on a pitch like this. But it's, I think, it's a tough call to make. And, we can only find out what's going to happen after that once the decision comes through. I mean, once we see what the first innings looks like.
But there's always a little talk about bowlers, particularly those who bat at 7, 8, even 9, as to how much they can contribute with the bat. Now, when Marco Jansen, Zaheer, first came onto the scene, he was regarded as this tall bowler, of course, who gets the extra bounce, but that he can bat a bit. Hasn't quite shown promise. Can he bat a bit?
Well, he loves batting. Every bowler loves loves giving a try with the bat in hand. He loves hitting those big sixes. Spends a lot of time working on his batting, and surely is capable of putting a good knock together. So that's something which we have to wait and see at any level. He's not really got that kind of opportunity to showcase his talent with the bat. But when you talk about the ability, he surely has ability with the bat. I'm sure he himself will be wanting to make use of any opportunity which he gets, to constantly looking to push that number which is ahead of him. If he's batting at number 8, he will be trying to bat at number 7, and if he's batting at number 7, he'll try to push himself to 6. That's the kind of approach he's had, which is important. You got to be open to putting those hard yards in the nets, and show that keenness to learn, and then rest is all about the opportunities, and with time only we'll know that whether he is able to make that impact with the bat or not.
Yeah, as far as South Africa are concerned, India, of course, have been finding more and more bowlers who can bat a bit, more than a bit. But what about their 11? What have they done with the combination of the side? And simple as that. This is the conclusion we came to, that if, when being 2-0 down, you are unchanged and you make it 2-1, Joy, there is absolutely no reason in the world, barring injury, this should look any different.
Absolutely. And now, if on the 5th match, you will only see change if the rubber is already dead. I feel that if they go in at 2-0, 2-all, I don't think you'll see too many changes again there. And I like it. I think, look, they have, if you look at it that way, they have 2-3 series. They've got some matches in Ireland. They've got matches, elsewhere. What they're trying to do is, I think they'll use specific series to give specific people a chance. I think this is a chance for Rituraj, Karthik, these players to get a chance. There'll be another series. Hardik will get a chance as captain. Every time that they're testing out, Sanju Samson will hopefully get a chance the next time around. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Instead of going piecemeal in one series, saying, okay, play one match, drop one match, and, ruining the player's mindset when he doesn't know whether he's going to play or not play, what they've tried to do is say, okay, this series we'll focus, barring injury, this is the 11 of players we're going to focus on, and give you a solid chance. So nobody at the end of the day can turn around and say they did not get the matches or opportunity to show their form for the World Cup.
Well, just going to quickly get all your opinions in, even before I go to Zaheer, and maybe I'll bring him in on this particular question from one of our fans, #AskCricbuzz Live. Plenty of questions coming in throughout the series. Lakshit Sehgal, and he talks about captaincy. Hardik Pandya has been named captain for the India-Ireland series. Given the context of his season with Gujarat, does this push him up the depth chart of future India captains ahead of KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant? Interesting one there. particularly Zaheer in the context of the fact that at the moment, Rishabh Pant's captaining. Very soon, Ireland team or Ireland series, Hardik takes over and he's very much around as vice captain.
We did touched upon this topic a while ago. When we were talking about what is IPL bringing to the table, and there are two new teams being added, and most of the teams are opting out for Indian captains. So that is something which is really good for Indian cricket as well. When you're talking about the leadership roles, and when you're talking about the think tank, more and more when you're leading a team, it doesn't matter what level you are leading a team at. Your lookout towards the game changes. You're not only thinking about just what you bring to the table, you also have to think about how you can win games of cricket, how you're going to use your resources, what kind of plans should be in place. So your whole lookout to the game and how you absorb the game of cricket changes, and that's something which is a positive influence around the key members of the contracted players, I would say. There are so many of them who have been part of IPL setup, who are leading IPL teams, and Hardik this year has been one of them who has seen success to go on to win the IPL in the first year as a leader. Has definitely boosted his confidence, has really changed his lookout as well. I'm sure towards the game. So for him, it's a great opportunity for everyone who has got the chance of leading the Indian team in the recent past. Now, what we've seen, obviously, Virat and Rohit are the main leaders of this setup. But when you look at the depth, and that's the question around, the depth of potential captains for the Indian team, I think there are a lot of good news there. So rest assured, there is some nice, good headaches for the selectors. But overall, for Indian cricket, these are all great signs. These are all positive signs, which is going to help you set the tone in terms of playing the kind of cricket which you want to play. The kind of communication you want to filter down, to all the guys who are playing the first class, who are playing the franchise cricket. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is another name who has been around for so long. Now he gets to be the vice captain as well. So that's another one. So if you just name all these players who've been either in the captain or vice captain position, the list is very long, and it's going to be really good for overall cricket of India.
Certainly is. But Joy, one of the names we didn't speak about as soon as we looked at that list was Rahul Tripathi. Of course, spent time in the Kolkata franchise, then moved over to a much brighter color, and certainly showed that he's ready to make that step up. And I think this is just rewards for everything he's shown in the IPL.
Absolutely. And I think one of the great things that Rahul Tripathi has shown this year, especially in the IPL, and he's always had that, is he never is a situation where he gets himself bogged down. He'll take it early. If he gets out, he gets out. But if he's in the crease, he will always score runs. And he's what, traditionally they call a busy player. Suresh Raina at his peak used to be like that. You look at the scoreboard and you think he's just come in, and suddenly you see he's been batting on 30 or 40. Tripathi is a lot like that. He's a relentless run accumulator. He runs fast, always finds places, and places the ball really, really well. I'm really delighted that they're looking at him, because he would have looked at himself and wondered, what more do I need to do to try and get a chance out there? And I think it's a great thing that because we have so many series at this point in time, all these guys are getting their opportunity. Remember, when you're looking at the IPL now, every year when you looked at the IPL, you looked at 7 into 8, 56 basically first choice Indian players in the 11. Okay, this year you're looking at 7 into 10, 70. So there are 14 more players who are playing regularly for their franchises in the IPL, almost on a regular basis. And this year, if you notice, there's a lot of situations where franchises have gone with just 2 foreign players or 3.
Yes, so that number increases.
Yep. So that number goes even more than 17. That's why I'm saying this pool is absolutely fantastic. And Tripathi is just one of the fantastic players coming through the pool. There was this really heartwarming, saddening, but probably he's not done enough right now, from Rahul Tripathi saying, what more? My chance will come at some point in time. But at least Tripathi's chance has come. And I think with the amount of cricket India is playing, the others will have a chance as well.
Yeah, they certainly will. We can think back maybe a few months ago when we were looking ahead to another T20 World Cup, and we were trying to decide between Rahul Chahar and Yuzvendra Chahal about a month, 2 months before building up to Dubai. And what ended up happening was Rahul Chahar got the nod. Yuzvendra Chahal came back hungrier. And of course, he's been performing well ever since. Probably nudged Chahar into second place. But Zaheer, again, you talked about the team's hunger. And when you were referring to that in matches 1 and 2 that we lost, I think as an individual, you cannot get a better example of someone who just displays hunger even when the conditions don't favor him. And Yuzi Chahal.
Absolutely, I think, and his recent past, I would say that around the World Cup when he was not picked, right? So that was like 6-8 months back, 8 to 10 months back. So that was the time. I'm sure he must have thought about what is required of him right now. And sometimes in your career, when you have a long career, these kind of moments really take you to that next level. And that's something which you've seen with Chahal as well. That little bit of say a nudge to your ego, to your pride, is always handy for a bowler like Chahal. He surely made use of that dent which was presented to him, by not being picked, and really put in the work, figured out his things, and he himself was very vocal about it. That his wicket taking form was not up to the mark, and when he got the opportunity in IPL, the second half of the IPL, which got extended to Abu Dhabi, that's when he really came to his own self again, and the timeout certainly helped. So it just kind of sometimes refreshes you. It kind of takes you back to what is important for you. I always used to say myself that every time in doubt, you get back to basics. And what I meant was always to get back into the nets, or get back into the game mode, where you're just thinking about the game and not really thinking about who you are, or what kind of reputation you have, or what kind of those added pressure which is making you do things differently, or think things differently, when it comes to the game. So I think, that's what going back to the basics meant to me. Just go out there and find that love of the game. And that's something which I've seen with Chahal as well. It just kind of that time off gave him that opportunity to refresh his thinking, to get back to the basics, start enjoying the game again. And you just kind of go through a detox of sort, of all that little bit of negative thoughts here, there, which comes, which tilts you to think differently, or think on the back foot rather than on the front foot, or think aggressively, or go more defensive in your thinking. So these are the slight little changes which happen, when you dip in form. But with Chahal, that break has come handy, and since then he's not really looked back. Since then he's been the Chahal who we know, who wanted to just get back there out on the field. And I'm sure right now the goal for him is to go back to that World Cup spot which he had missed, claim that spot again in Australia.
Yeah, that'll be just rewards for Yuzvendra Chahal, Joe. And it sort of, in a way, reminds me of the other person we've talked so much about, confidence, of Kuldeep Yadav. Of course, they're a pair. We often talk about them together. But again, Chahal, in a sense, not quite lost confidence like Kuldeep did. But he obviously, when he lost his place, that's when he had to sort of reinvent his energy and come back stronger.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. It's a very interesting thing, and Zach will know this much better than any of us. When you become the lead bowler in a team, which Chahal has often become, the guy who everyone goes to in all sorts of emergencies, then what happens is that you tend to get less wickets because other team's batsmen try and play you out a bit. And then what happens is sometimes you just experiment a little bit more because you're desperate to get wickets, even though they're just trying to play you out and they're trying to hit on the other side. And what happens when you experiment more is you give away more loose balls. And that was happening a little bit with Chahal. He was just getting a little frustrated at not getting the wickets. And I think in this break, he's gone back and he's sort of rediscovered exactly what Zach said, his basics. That, okay, this is what I do. I bowl this ball well, on length, on the right time, at the right place. I will get my wickets. I just need to be a little bit more patient about it, and I just need to be a bit more disciplined about it. And I think he does that because one of the things is, in every team, every bowler either is a bowler who's, when there's a lot of pressure on the team, is a bowler who wants to bowl, no matter what the situation, or he doesn't want to bowl. And you have both sides. And it's not that the guys who don't want to bowl are not skilled bowlers, but there are people who want to put up their hands and the other saying, Captain, don't look at me, don't look at me. And I think Chahal is the kind of guy who puts up his hand and wants to bowl at that point in time. And sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. But the issue is, he is the kind of guy who's willing to take on the challenge and say, I think I can take him. And I think that's why his being there, aggressive and getting wickets for India is so important to the team that we put out.
And the figures show it. Leads the way in terms of T20 international wickets for India. There was that time when he was neck and neck with Jasprit Bumrah. They were having a nice little contest. But yeah, there you go. 72 wickets in 57 matches, ahead of the likes of Bumrah, Bhuvi, Ravichandran Ashwin, and Ravindra Jadeja. So that's a decent list to be on top of, and even the economy can be just a shade below. But again, that just shows India's strength, Zaheer. Looking at that list of bowlers, yeah, Chahal's on top. There was a point when Bumrah was on top. You want that healthy competition, and just like a race for a purple cap in one IPL, this is a different coloured cap that we can give for India.
Yeah, and early days of T20 international cricket, isn't it? So this race is going to go on, and it's going to go on for a long time, GB. So I think by the time you reach to a point, where you can name that one guy, saying that okay, he is that T20 bowler whose record is very hard to beat. But I think from the current generation, that there's going to be someone who is definitely going to be bearing that torch and set that milestone for all the other bowlers to really look up to and say that, okay, I want to beat that record.
Well, we'll wait and find out if it's one of those from the list that we actually mentioned. But in the batting front, and of course, India will be batting first, having lost the toss for the fourth time in a row. 2-1 at the moment to South Africa, and Ishan Kishan is going to be striding up there in a few minutes' time. Joy, we've already talked a little bit about him. We've talked about two sides of Ishan Kishan. The impetuous youngster who burst on the scene, who used to just score runs for fun from ball one, but now started to play as much with the head as with the bat. And I think that has been the most refreshing side of Ishan Kishan 2.0.
Yes, and how the team is using him, because they are using him as the designated attacker up front, and he's playing that role to the T. He knows that he's a designated attacker because Rituraj takes his time. Rituraj has the ability to accelerate very fast, but up front, who's taking the risk? Right now, it's Ishan Kishan who's taking the risk, and it's coming off. He's got his share of dropped catches and chances, but he's taken advantage of it. And in tight matches, he's always put India into a situation where they had totals to defend. It's a different matter that we didn't manage to defend them in the first two matches, but he's given India those starts. And I think he is crucial because he's not scared of getting out as long as he thinks that he's trying to attack for India and trying to get runs ahead for India. So I think that spirit that he brings to the game is very special. And that 164 runs is testimony to the fact that he's really good at it. And India right now, again, it's a very tactical, matchup-driven team. There's a lot of analysis going on. So left-right is important. Who's attacking is important. And I'll be very interested in seeing now that Jansen is there, who's a very different kind of bowler. Who the designated attacker from India would be to try and take him on would be interesting.
But Zaheer, you've talked a lot about Ishan throughout this series. You've seen him up close. You were the first one to say that, yes, when I said, okay, didn't have a great tournament, it wasn't the worst one either. He reinvented himself through the course of the tournament. Similarly, he's done it in this series. Even when he's been in an innings or a surface that's not been conducive, he's quickly adapted to that and played innings, played the situation.
Well, he's been consistent. That's really important for an opener to be very consistent. So he's achieved that in the series. I think if any batter, if you look at it in the season, in the series so far in the first 3 games, it has been Ishan Kishan. So that is something which is very important for him. Is definitely going to be a confidence booster for him, and it was important also for him because when you look at it from the team stack-up point of view right now, you're talking about the Ireland squad being announced, and there are a number of keepers there as well. Sanju Samson is also coming back. You already have Rishabh Pant right now here. KL Rahul also can keep. You have Ishan Kishan as a fourth one, right? So there are enough keepers also. Dinesh Karthik making his comeback, so you add that name also to the list. It's all when all these names are doing the rounds as an individual to play at the highest level. What is required of you? You have to show that you are different than others. So that is something which is very important. So every opportunity which you're going to get is going to matter, and you have to make it count. Someone like Dinesh Karthik also, the kind of approach he's shown is also giving you those glimpses, right? Yeah, it's easier for him because you are in a different stage in your career. Every inning matters at that stage in your career. But for Ishan Kishan, it's a different kind of a stage in his career. It's very early start to his career, but the approach what he has shown is of the similar kind of nature, and that's very important for him. When you're cementing your place at the highest level, you have to make every opportunity count, and so far he's been on top of that. As far as international cricket is concerned, he has made that impact and made every opportunity count. So I'm very happy for him that this series has come at a good time for him, and he's getting good opportunities for him to show those numbers, show that consistency. Which, if you look at the numbers of this year or maybe the last year, he's ahead with many openers right now who are playing or who has played a lot more cricket than him. So I think he's on the right track right now to achieve success at the highest level.
Well, we often say that what do you want first, the good news or the bad news? Well, we've given you the good news first, which is Ishan Kishan and his form and reinventing himself. The bad news, if you have to put it that way, is the form of India's current captain, Joy. Now, it's not just the fact that he's getting out. Anyone can have a low score. Any batsman in the world can get out early. But the fact is he's had 3 similar dismissals so far. What does he do to get out of this rut?
Yeah, very interesting. Firstly, I mean, he'll be looking at if he's knew a little bit about statistics, he'd understand the odds of losing 4 tosses in a row are about 6% of losing 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's like a crazy odds against him. And the second thing is that you're absolutely right. I think they are playing him, they're thinking him out. That same white ball with no pace on it, him trying to force it over the offside, not managing to get across the field. They're doing it way too often. And my point is that just as the South African support staff would have discovered this and told their bowlers, it's not that the Indian support staff does not understand this or doing it. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to look at it. They're going to show him a lot of video. Someone like a Rahul Dravid would take him back, sit down and say, you want to watch this? See what you're doing. You're off balance out here. You're reaching and you're not quite getting there. What do you do to combat that? Maybe they might not have had time for a net, but before the game, they might have just had a little bit of a discussion about how they can do this. And I think they would have specifically focused on this issue as well. I don't think that the Indian team is going to let it go just that easily and say that let him keep working it out for himself. I think they'll be working on this with him.
Yeah. Very briefly, Zaheer, there are times when you turn around and say, listen, there are certain players who are impetuous. There are certain players who play a certain way. You let them play a certain way. But when you see a pattern, when you see 3 dismissals in a row, somebody's got to put an arm around his shoulder and sort of point it out very subtly, or maybe not so subtly.
No, I mean, if you're putting the arm around his shoulder, all you got to tell him is that you're smarter than this. So I think I'm surprised by that. Like, if you're building, if the pattern is developing in back-to-back innings, the Rishabh Pant, which I know is far more smarter than that. So that is what I'm waiting for. I'm sure it's not going to be a 4th time, because three times is enough. He knows where the bowler is bowling and how to counter that. And if someone is getting predictable to him, he takes full advantage of that. So if someone is making him predictable to get out, it's an easier challenge to deal with. So that's something which I'm waiting to see. I think in today's game, you might see that, because from South Africa's point of view, that's going to be the approach. That's going to be the attack tactic which they'll use, because that has given them the success. So for Rishabh Pant, it's a very minor adjustment in his mindset rather than his technique. To be aware of that line. Maybe get closer to the ball, shift his line of attack by moving outside the off stump, or by not playing that shot, because that's the tram line which bowlers are always fiddling around with, and that's always a risk of giving you or getting you 2-3 runs in extras, with the wides being called. So that is something which we have to wait and see. But I have no doubt that he will come over that.
Yeah, well, street smart is the words that come to mind when it comes to describing Rishabh Pant. So, as he said, maybe he'll be the first one to go and put an arm around whoever's about to do that and say, "Yeah, I know what's happening. I've figured it out. Watch me in game number 4." So it will be interesting when he does come out to bat. India are batting first, but before we get to our predictions, Joy, it's time to see. Do you have a street smart question for us today?
Yeah, I have a ekdam sadak chap question actually. Look at it.
I love it.
Why were cartons of cigarettes sent to a dressing room in Leighton during a county match in June 1932? So lots of cigarettes were sent to a dressing room in those days, of course, cigarette smoking was not considered as bad as it is now. But why specifically? And the only hint I can give is it was a specific brand of cigarettes.
Okay. I'm going to give you this one after the show in about 30 seconds time. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Get your answer in. I'm sure if you're regular on the quizzing circuit, you'll probably get it. I might be completely wrong, but I think I know which way I'm headed to. For the moment, we want a different kind of a number. We want a number for India. We haven't got it right every time this series. Joy has been a winner so far, but otherwise we've either been too high or too low. Now that we are 4 matches down, Zaheer, Rajkot, India looking to make it 2-all. How many will it take to make it 2-all?
I think it has to be 200 plus. Then I'll go 205.
Oh, love it. He's already putting some body English into India's scorecard. 205 on the Rajkot surface. South Africa not going to get that. So then it will be 2-all. Joy, less, more, little less?
I'm going to go for a very funny figure. I'm going to go for 196. And I'll tell you why. It's Leander Paes' 49th birthday. Nobody is a better servant of the India flag than he was for all the time that he played for India.
So 1996.
Score is 196. So I'm going to go with 196. It's the 4th match. Leander Paes 49. I'll go for 196.
Love it. I was just about to wish him before the show. I'm going to do it after it. But very happy birthday, Leander, if you happen to be watching this and you've got nothing to do on Thursday evening, or is it a Friday? It's a Friday evening. On a Friday evening. Oh, I'm going to give my score. I'm going 180. I'm going to go for an even 180. I don't know why I'm going so low, but 180. Leander Paes 196. Zaheer Khan pushing the Indian team along to 205. Few changes. 3 for South Africa, none for India. Marco Janssen's back. Lungi Ngiri's back. Quinton de Kock is back. And we will be back in the 10th over with Cricbuzz Combox. For now, from Joy, Zaheer and myself, that's all on Cricbuzz Live.